Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of In the Pit with your host, Lobo Tigre of IndependentSpeculator.com. Our victim of the day, or victims of the day, I should say, are Daniel Schieber. He's the CEO of American Copper, and Bonnie Broman. I'm not sure I got that right, Bonnie. VPX, good. I wasn't sure my short-term memory was up to it. So we've got questions about your rock, so it's always good to have the technical people on. So before we get to that, why don't I just go ahead and turn it over to you, Daniel. Give us a quick 30,000-foot overview of what you're doing, and we'll get into my questions.
Excellent, Lobo. Thanks for that intro. It's actually a very exciting time to look at American Copper because we've just started drilling our property on Saturday, and we made that announcement on Monday. What we're trying to create is a copper company that's focused in the United States. The United States is our where our flagship property is, the Lordsburg property, and we're trying to discover a big porphyry or porphyry-related skarn there. This has been the labor of love of Bonnie and Rick for the last 5-6 years to consolidate this district from different parties, and we finally got to do that last year around August and capitalize it with good people. I think the people is what makes this company what it is. It's a wonderful situation where Rick Van Nieuwenhuis, old Nova Gold and Trilogy experience now with Contango, has come together with another titan, I would say another great guy in the industry, Andy Bowering, who has been behind some very successful lithium properties and successful gold company called Prime Mining. So the combination of these things.
All of the above. Forgive me for jumping in, but since you're talking people, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick bio on yourself? Before we started talking about this meeting, I never heard of you before. So who are you, and why should I trust anything you say?
Yeah, fair. Well, I got started as an analyst for a gold fund. It was called the Stabilitas Gold and Resources Fund. It was a German fund with domicile in Luxembourg, and I got picked up by the fund manager, one of the three in my last year of university, and I started to work for him and take a look at juniors and suggest ideas to the fund to invest in. And the best thing that happened to me is that all three fund managers would knock down 10 of my ideas, 10 out of 10, and the next time one of them would stand, and I would understand why, and so I was always on the buy side. Then in 2008 and 2009, decided to come and provide services for miners. We would raise capital for them in Europe. And so that's how I got to know Rick, and that's how I got to know Andy. And really the only thing that I have developed in the last 18 years is this tiny little black book that keeps getting names added to it. And those are the people that I do not want to do business with. And the handful.
I'm sorry. I mean, I have one too. It's not actually black. Okay. It's not for sale, but I know absolutely where you're coming from. There are companies that are just non-starters based on experience with management. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, no, it's the most valuable thing, I believe, in mining investment or junior mining investment is who is running it, who's overseeing the treasury. Will they do the right thing for the shareholders in the end? And so that's how I've sort of narrowed it down. And really, there's not very much to choose from out there. I've had really good conversations with their analyst, a very, very smart, sharp kid. So, I think you're training good people there. But from our perspective, what we want to do is we want to go into the correct areas where the macro makes sense, the right project, the right people, and of course not forget the structure, which is important always to make these non producing or non-cash flowing companies, you need to protect the structure. You know, that's the only way investors will win.
That's how you get payday in the end. I see Bonnie's gone black rectangle on us. Are you still there, Bonnie? And do you have a discovery under your belt that you can crow about, or how do we trust you to figure out these rocks for us?
Bonnie, I think
I
you're
had to
muted
grab a
there.
glass of water. Sorry.
No worries.
So I'm in Alaska, so it's really dry here. So apologies, but yeah, I think we have a really good story. We've put one of the unique things about our company is we've put together a big land package that no one had been able to do before, and to search for a porphyry. So we're all really excited. It's a historic mining district where these high-grade veins, copper gold veins, had historically been mined, but again, on very segmented packages of land. So we've put the whole package together. We've compiled all of the geologic information and layers of data. We've got all the right tools. We've got a LiDAR survey, Aster survey. We've done everything that you need to do up to the point where you need to start drilling. So we just finished a big 3D IP and MT survey earlier this year, and so that's what's helped us pick some priority targets to start drill testing. So we're excited to actually have the drill on site, and we've got our first hole going. We've made good progress. We're down about 300 meters, and we're gonna probably take it down the first hole to about 800 meters just to get started. So
The truth machine, always welcome, unless you're a promoter. But okay, so that's great. And I do get the consolidation part of the story, but I was actually asking what your experience was. Have you done this before? Have you drilled these kind of targets before? You know, where, when?
Yeah, so my background is I'm a geologist, obviously. I started my career with NovaGold over 15 years ago. So my background is focused solely on copper deposits. I've worked on VMS deposits, copper replacement deposits, and high-grade vein systems. This is my first time working in a porphyry, but we learn about all of the other types of ore deposits are in some way related or can be related to a big porphyry system. And I have to say that we do have some expertise in our group on porphyries. Rick Van Nieuwenhuis went to University of Arizona, which is the like master porphyry school. So he's got quite a bit of experience. Some of our board members have worked in the area before on other projects looking for porphyries. And then our boots on the ground project manager down in Lordsburg, Mark Osterberg, he has very long experienced history working in Southwest on porphyry deposits. So,
okie doke. All right. Well, that's good here. And the NovaGold connection makes perfect sense. We've had Rick on before, and I've been in the field with him many more years ago than I care to think about.
yeah.
All righty. So let's talk about the target then and what you just outlined. I get from your corporate presentation that you're talking about the porphyry, and of course size matters. We all want to make a great big copper discovery in a somewhere that isn't likely to get nationalized anytime soon. So I get the idea of it, but the drill results in the presentation are all from these past high grade veins, and I understand that they're often veins distal to porphyries that can help with targeting, but it almost seems like those results don't matter if that's not the target. So is that a plan B? Maybe there is a high grade that got overlooked by the old timers that could be brought back online, or is that just input to target the porphyry, or what's the objective here really primarily?
I would say it's a little of both. So while the veins we're using them more as a vector and targeting tool, they're certainly interesting in and of themselves. I mean, some of the historic intervals that they were drilling on the veins were 10 feet of 3% copper, and so there was some really interesting high-grade copper intercepts, and there's still mineralization at depth from the historic work that was done. Federal Resources was the group that had done a lot of work in the 1970s to outline the copper reserves, and so they have reserve maps. They're not 43101 compliant, obviously, because it was in the 70s, but we do know that there is mineralization still there. But again, our big focus and the part of why we wanted to consolidate the package was to look for the causative porphyry. The veins in and of themselves are, because they have so much copper, there's something very exciting driving that system. They didn't just, come from nowhere. So that's why we believe that there's a system, a big porphyry system. And if it is there, it is probably deep, but that's why we've put together all the layers of information, and we did the geophysics to help us kind of vector into where to drill test that porphyry. And all it takes is one hole. So
yeah. If Mother Nature cooperates, is there a distance from the heat source and the porphyry and the plumbing? Is there a distance that high grade copper cannot go beyond? Like, that can't be more than 1 kilometer from the porphyry center, or more than 10, or how close is that as a targeting tool?
Yeah, usually, so when you see the high grade veins, they're usually on the apex of a big porphyry system. So again, they're usually at the top of the system. And so that in itself is exciting for us, because since those veins are preserved, we believe that the rest of the system has been preserved as well, the porphyry system that's feeding those veins. So it hasn't been eroded. Because a lot of times when you do find some porphyries, you find them at different levels of emplacement. So maybe the top part of that porphyry system,
or even turned over in the lithography.
Yep, exactly. So because of where the veins are and the orientation of the veins, we think that the system has been rotated and kind of tilted over on its side, which lends a little bit of luck to us. If there is the big system at depth, that means it kind of has come up a little bit.
Right, brings it closer to surface. And sorry, did you say 800 feet or meters? I'm a little confused. Some of you just reported some intercepts in feet, which is kind of mind-bending for a Canadian company. But I think you said 800 meters on the drill hole. So are we thinking metric here? And is that deep enough to test the porphyry, or is it just kind of confirmation of the historic drill results for this first hole?
No, this first hole is testing some interesting anomalies, chargeability anomalies that we identified from the geophysics, the IP work that we just did. And 800 meters is certainly the deepest has ever been drilled in that area. So just to go back and mention, there was I would say a porphyry discovery, or not quite the actual porphyry, but there was porphyry style or porphyry related.
Yeah, I saw the picture, the textures. Yeah.
And so when Entre Gold drilled those holes in 2008, 2009 timeframe, they just didn't drill deep enough. And so what we've done is we've identified the area where they've drilled, and then surrounding that area is a chargeability high. So again, that's interesting from a porphyry perspective and signature in geophysics. It's kind of that classic porphyry signature. So our first hole, we decided to test that target, and we're drilling from our patented mining claims. So
okay, and to use the parlance du jour, is your drilling this year going to be data dependent, like what happens in the first hole informs the rest, or do you have targets planned out, regional targets, other targets? Is this year's exploration program already thought out, or does it depend on what you find in the first couple holes?
I would say both, because we certainly permitted 17 holes to give us the flexibility to move around our land package depending on what we see. So we have planned holes. If this one hits, maybe we want to drill deeper, or we want to drill, a 50-meter offset or whatever. So we do have that ability to do that depending on the drill results. But we do have our top 5 priorities, I would say, that we want to drill test.
Okay, and is this BLM land or Forest Service land, or how tricky would it be to expand the drilling permits if Mother Nature is kind to you?
Yeah, so a big part of our drill program is on patented mining claims that we own or lease from third parties. And then there's a few holes that we have on BLM land. So we've worked pretty closely with the BLM and the state of New Mexico to get these permits in place. And we've asked them about the ability to amend and add drill holes if we need to. And I don't think it'll be a big process.
And it's kind of an unfair question, but if there isn't some tribe nearby that's going to suddenly decide that cactus over there is sacred, and my grandfather was praying to it for. Sorry, I don't mean to diminish their claims, but the natives were here first. So there isn't a part of the country that they can't claim to have been there first and to be important to them. And we don't want another resolution that sees no resolution, right? So
Yeah,
what's the politics like for you out there?
Yeah, so our permit went to the local tribe in the region, and it's actually the region is their traditional land is northern New Mexico, but the permit did go through them for public comment prior to being authorized, and that was the White Mountain Apache tribe, and they basically came back and wrote us a letter that said they see no adverse impacts because that's not really part of their traditional lands. And it really is an area in New Mexico that has seen mining since the turn of the century. I mean, Billy the Kid got his start there washing dishes at the old Shakespeare mine, which is on our property. So,
right.
Which is
I was wondering about that because, I mean, if you have past activity there, clearly this is already disturbed land. Yep. So that should lower but just to be clear, are you if it's patented land, you can pretty much do what you want. On the BLM land, are you with 5 acres of notice, or is there a POO?
Yeah, so we've got a 5 acre permit approval, or less than 5 acres disturbance approval. And then just, the state of New Mexico has domain over all lands in New Mexico, including private lands, but it's basically, so you do need your permit from the state as well, but it's basically more of a notice that you're going to be doing this work and keeping your, surface disturbance below a certain threshold, and that you are going to be plugging your wells in the right manner as per the state engineer's regulations.
All right. And okay, so I get the picture. Thank you for outlining that. We're drilling. We have an interesting target. It'll be fun to see. And Daniel, I understand that, the global economy is not your personal fault. We won't hold that against you. But why should anybody be looking at any copper stocks at all right now, let alone yours, which is testing a hypothesis, when we see the world going into a deepening recession that at least from my point of view, maybe you have a different point of view, but I think even the soft landing or not so hard landing scenario still means some level of pain, and that's never good for industrial metals prices. So
that's true.
I understand the thesis of what you're doing on the ground, but talk to me as a potential shareholder. Why on earth would I buy your stock today ahead of this storm?
Good question. And really, the macro side of things matters so much for us as a junior, because we want to catch that wave when copper goes from $4 where it currently sits to $7 or more. And I've always been a gold bug, and I've always been able to explain in my own way why I like gold. That makes me a bit of a cynicist, of things to come. But in my role here in my investment in American Copper, I see different forces helping the copper market in the near coming future. And if you look at it from a basic number crunching supply demand side, the supply is significantly affected. The grades are becoming lower and lower and lower that are mined. And the jurisdictions are, where the copper comes from are politically, I would say, a little bit more hot than where we are. And that's one part of the equation, the supply that is in my opinion not growing. And for every analyst report that you read out there, you'll see that. And then that leaves the demand supply, which is where your concern or your comment comes from, with a shrinking economy. And that definitely has an impact on copper, since it's always been Dr. Copper. However, when I think the world's upside down, the world is upside down in debt, and that's going to start breaking things, and we have already seen it start to break things, like these regional banks and also big ones like in Switzerland, and that's going to create, I think it's the beginning of pain. But you also have governments that are incentivized to encourage activity, and and the number one thing that every let's say Western government has in common is that they're going for a net zero agenda. They're going for environmentally friendly practices, and that really helps copper. And so, you know, in school you learn, well, the best way to aid the economy and to get it kickstarted is you know, building infrastructure. And I think, you know, 50, 60 years ago, what that meant was roads and railways. But what that means in today's context is electric infrastructure, and that needs a lot of copper. So, you know, I am real about the fact that, you know, these net zero agendas are way out there. They're not going to be able to be achieved, but they're going to be at least tried to be achieved. And what drives us more in particular with our domestic project here in the United States is the fact that, you know, only 65% of the consumption of copper comes from inside the country, and you have more protectionist forces, you know, controlling decision making for different governments. So
Yeah, no,
I
actually,
think we should.
let me jump in. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm actually extremely bullish on copper. The question is, why buy the stock now? Like, you know, if you're drilling and I'm seeing a recession, you know, more pain ahead, maybe I could get an opportunity to buy your stock with more information after Bonnie goes out and discovers a porphyry, and the stock might even be cheaper than now before she does it. Or maybe that's not a, you know, terribly fair question, but, you know, as a copper bull, this is what I'm asking. Like, why should I buy anything right now? And if the answer is drill results next week, you know, maybe that's an answer, but otherwise, you know, help me out here. Why? Or actually, let me turn around. Let me put it this way. Do you have all the money in the bank to let Bonnie drill all the holes that she has in mind, or is there a financing coming, or is there some kind of event like that an SEC accredited investor might want to wait for?
Well, our first phase is 5,000 meters, and in terms of timing, like your timing to buy the stock, you know, we're not that far away from our first set of results. So shareholders really don't need to wait that long. We've been doing a lot of the homework last year and into the first quarter of this year to get to this stage. So, you know, I guess as we drill and bring out assays, that's going to generate some interest or not, and that's, I would say, a pretty good opportunity for people coming in now, because, you know, in terms of timing, you got to consider the price too. You know, what's our price today? Today, I think we're between 23 and 25 cents Canadian. We're starting to trade very, very lightly in the United States.
You had a nice
that
flip up a couple of weeks ago, but it settled back down again. What caused that? Do you know?
You know, it was a reaction on the results of the IP. I think the market quite liked the fact that our model has not been broken yet, our porphyry model target, and we haven't put a pin on that balloon yet. So that was why I think all of a sudden we were trading at 35 or 36 cents. You know, every excitement wanes. So now we're drilling, and now I think the rocks need to do the talking, not just me and Bonnie.
Have the labs given you an indication for what kind of turnaround on those assays?
Yeah, so the labs always tell you they can get it done in 3 to 4 weeks, but I never believe that anymore, given recent, you know, performance. But I think to our advantage, there's a prep facility in Tucson, Arizona, which is an hour and a half away. So it's really easy for us to get the samples there. And we're drilling in the off season. So we're drilling when everyone else usually is still planning and getting their programs put together for the summer. The summers are usually the backlog for the labs, just because everyone in the north, in Canada and Alaska, is inundating the lab with their samples. So I think we're getting a good start. We're getting ahead of the crowd, and we're getting a good place in line. And I think I would just add to Dan's comment too about, our share price right now and our recent activity with the MT and the IP results and how our share price reacted to that. Like I said, all it takes is one hole. So if you can get into the stock now at the price basically that we IPO'd at, then I think you're in for a good ride. So.
All right, you heard it from the horse's mouth, the geology. That's a freebie. I'll give you that one. But I didn't get an answer to the question of are those 5,000 meters paid for? Do you have the money in the bank for that right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that goes also in context with your last question, in terms of timing and price, because we raised $10 million, 25 cents with no warrants, and in August of last year we closed that as part of the transaction, and we also paid no finder's fee, Lobo. So it was a very, very good financing that's not going to cap our stock with warrants. And we have seen quite a bit of refunds since August. We've traded almost 10 million shares, and about 8.5 of them have been anonymous. So that tells you something. But it's been absorbed properly here. I keep buying shares in the market. It's in my insider reports. I love this story. I think this is a great opportunity. Yeah.
Oh, love makes me nervous. It's an emotion. I like love. I like the previous remark about the hypothesis has survived disproof. That appeals to my scientific oriented mind. All right. Do we want to say anything about Chuchi at all? It's funny. I could have sworn I kickboxed on a project called that in Peru somewhere, but are you doing anything with that, or is it just back burner? Nothing happening here. Move along.
There was a qualifying project that we spent $220,000 on for phase 1 exploration to make it to the market. So it was. My concept is always, let's not waste any money, right? So Chuchi South had some indications of being something interesting from the analogy with Chuchi proper, which is option from Centerra to Pacific Ridge. And Blaine Monahan is a friend. I tried to hire him once, and he came to me too early and said, "Hey, Dan, what are you doing with Chuchi?" And I said, "Well, Blaine, we still kind of need it because it's our only 43-101 project." And I said to him, "Well, it's not going to be core for us once we start focusing on Lordsburg." And then so we chatted again, and we're allowing Pacific Ridge to spend $8 million on this project to earn 75%. So it just deserves that attention, I guess, but it's not our focus. Yeah.
Sure. But is there work being done this year, or are there yearly earn-ins, or yearly earn-in requirements, or can they put it all off to the end of the term?
No, it's staged. It's staged. So it's first $4 million for the initial 49%, and then another $4 million for the rest to 75. And they took on our cash payments to the underlying vendor, who's also a friend, Ron Bilquist, great guy. And so yeah, they're going to be spending money there. He did raise the money for it, so he has it in the till. And because they're exploring 5 or 4 different projects. Anyways, I'm not here to talk about Pacific Ridge, but they are gonna do some work there for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, that seems fairly straightforward. I like to always ask the skin of the game question as we wrap up. And I noticed on your pie chart in your presentation, 29% insiders and management. It looks like a big chunk of the pie. But I have to ask, Daniel, how much of your own hard-earned money did you put into this, or did you get a bunch of free shares as a director, or how much skin in the game do you really have?
I have quite a bit in relationship to my net worth. I have about $500,000 in there, and that's including all the shares that I buy in the market. I like to buy in the market to show support. If you go to Canadian Insider, you'll only see green dots.
You
And
like that?
Yeah, so I'm, I'm in here for the long run, and not just because of love as an emotion, but because I believe in Bonnie and Rick and what they can do technically, and also on the corporate side of things here with one of the largest shareholders here, Andy Bowering. He's very well versed on how to, approach the market. That is something that we need to consider. As a junior, trying to get visibility out there is very important for us. So the good thing is, we have quite a bit of a following here in this office. I'm in Andy's office here, and they've created a pretty good market for their companies. So that is important to me. It was not only the ingredient of having a great project, it was also the ingredient of having enough support financially in the market. Yeah.
No, I absolutely get that. And the tight share structure too. At the end of the day, to deliver for shareholders, I can't tell you how many times we've had some mining engineers or geologists with a really interesting idea, but no ability to raise capital, no ability to move forward, no real management skills, right? And the story just went nowhere. Bonnie, you stepped into the pit with me, so I got to ask you too. Do you have any skin in the game?
I do. Yeah, I've bought some shares in the market, and I don't remember off the top of my head how much, but I have been buying when I can, and I am in.
Okay. Well, we'll check Canadian Insider for that information. It's a tool I regularly use, so all good.
Yeah.
Word to the wise for the audience. Okay. Well, I get it. I'll be looking forward to the draw results. You sat still for some impertinent questions here, so I'll let you have the last word. Daniel, what's the takeaway message you'd like to leave with the audience?
Considering the timing and copper, I think timing. I was concerned about being too early last year, but I'm seeing things like the inventory levels drop, and it is the perfect timing to be involved in some of these copper stories. And for us, with our results really just around the corner, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for your listeners, Lobo, to come and join us here. I treat everything with much respect. Our treasury, we don't charge anything to the company, not even our parking. Everything is going towards the real opening up of this district, and thanks to Bonnie and Rick, we're gonna get there, and it'll require patience too. We want to build this out. You asked about our capital requirements. Yes, we're funded for this 5,000 meters, and at the conclusion of that, we're going to be able to decide whether we accelerate or decelerate that. But as there's more capital that's going to be required down the line to really unlock this.
Right. No, I get that. There is no avoiding one form of dilution or another. Even if you hold on to 100% of your project, but then come the day you have to finance building it, the bank's going to end up de facto owning a chunk, and whoever puts the equity in. I get that. So no worries on that. But if there was an imminent financing, that would be different. And I absolutely get that if you're going to need more money going forward, then you want to do it after Bonnie delivers that home run that we're all banking on, right? I'm joking. I don't own the stock, dear audience. I'm not banking on it yet. But it is an interesting story. You've put it on my radar, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what the truth machine turns up, guys.
Thank you, Lobo.
All right. Well, thank you, and have a good day.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this edition of In the Pit with Lobo Tigre. If you enjoyed or found value in what you just saw, and you're watching this on any sort of social media, please do hit the like button and the share link. Send this on to anybody you think might be interested. That helps us out a lot. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button as well. The number of subscribers helps us get more valuable content to you as well. On the subject of subscribing, I'll quickly say that if you're not a subscriber to our free weekly Speculators Digest, I encourage you to sign up. I promise if you do, we will not send you a flood of daily advertisements. You get one free weekly digest with original research not published anywhere else. Check it out at independentspeculator.com. Thank you and have a great day.